Picture this. You're on the mound, bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, 2 outs. It's all on you. You wind up, you unleash the final pitch of the game, and then you feel it. A sudden, sharp pop in your elbow. For any baseball player, that is an absolutely terrifying sound. But what if it's not what we've all been taught to fear?
For decades, hearing that pop meant only one thing: instant panic. It's that single moment that you know could change your entire career.
And yet, the automatic assumption has always been a tear of the ulnar collateral ligament, the UCL. That's the injury, of course, that leads to the infamous Tommy John surgery, a massive procedure that can put a player on the bench for a year, maybe more. But what's fascinating is that new research is starting to suggest that not all pops are created equal.
So, let's really dig into that dreaded pop. We're going to look at some new science that's challenging this old belief and pointing the finger at a totally different culprit, one that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
That's right, this other explanation, it has nothing to do with a ligament. It's all about a nerve.
The condition is called ulnar nerve dislocation. Now, you know your funny bone, right? Well, the ulnar nerve is what you're actually hitting. It usually sits in this neat little channel in your elbow. But for some people, when they bend and straighten their arm, that nerve can actually slip or dislocate right out of its groove. Seriously, just think of it like a rope or cable popping out of the little track it's supposed to run.
And you can actually see it happening right here in these ultrasound images. So look on the left at image A. The elbow's straight, and that dark oval, that's the ulnar nerve, is sitting nice and snug in its groove. But then look at B on the right. The elbow's bent, and whoa, the nerve has completely popped out of place. It's now sitting on top of the bone. That physical movement is what can create that pop feeling.
So this is the really critical thing to get your head around. A UCL tear is an actual injury to a ligament. It's often painful, it makes the elbow unstable. But an ulnar nerve dislocation, that's just the movement of the nerve. And here's the kicker. The research shows it can be completely asymptomatic. It might not cause any pain or any problems whatsoever. It's often just there, a benign, incidental finding. So, how do we know all this? Well, this is where the science comes in. Researchers at the American Sports Medicine Institute decided to put this to the test with a study on some of the top college baseball players.
Now, they went in with some really logical ideas. They figured, okay, we'll probably find more of these nerve dislocations in guys who've been playing longer, definitely in pitchers because of all that throwing stress, and probably in players who already have kind of looser elbow ligaments. Makes total sense, right?
To test it, they got 50 healthy top-tier Division I players who had no elbow symptoms at all. They gathered all their data, age, position, you name it, and then they used something called a dynamic stress ultrasound. And this is so cool because it's not just a static picture. They could actually watch the nerve move in real time while the player bent their elbow. It's pretty amazing.
And this is where the whole story takes a really sharp turn. Because the results, well, they were not what anybody was expecting.
Okay, first big number for you, 16%. That's the percentage of these elite healthy athletes who had an ulnar nerve dislocation in at least one elbow. To put that into perspective, on a team of 50 guys, that's about 8 players walking around with this condition, and remember, none of them were reporting any symptoms.
But here is the first real shocker. Who do you think had the highest rate? It wasn't the pitchers, it was the outfielders at 22%. Pitchers were next at 13%, but that right there throws a huge wrench in the idea that this is all about the unique stress of pitching.
And this is where things get really wild. The study found 0 statistically significant connection between having this nerve dislocation and how many years you've played, or what position you play, or your age, height, weight. None of it. All those logical hypotheses they started with completely debunked.
But the investigation didn't just stop there. Even though the main theories didn't hold up, the researchers did find one subtle, interesting little clue. When they measured the stability of the elbow joint, they found that the players who did have a dislocating nerve also had slightly looser ligaments. Their joint opened up to about 4.3 millimeters under stress, while the others were at 3.7. Now, to be clear, the scientists said this difference wasn't big enough to be statistically significant, but it does hint that maybe having a little extra looseness in the elbow makes it easier for that nerve to slip out.
And it's probably not just one thing. The study also points out that your personal anatomy matters. Things like having a really big triceps muscle could literally be pushing the nerve out of its groove. So the cause is likely a mix of things, some of which a player is probably just born with.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. What's the big takeaway here? Why does any of this matter for the players, the coaches, and the doctors out there?
Well, the study's authors really summed it up perfectly. They said that doctors should always consider ulnar nerve dislocation when a player complains about things like a pop or a click on the inside of their elbow. It just has to be on the list of possibilities right next to a ligament tear.
So here it is, the main point we've been building to. That terrifying pop in an elbow, it might not be a catastrophe. It might not be a career-ending disaster. It could just be the harmless movement of a nerve. And knowing that could save an athlete from a whole lot of unnecessary panic and maybe even unnecessary medical treatment. Which leaves us with a really important question to think about. How many athletes have gone through that fear, maybe even gone through procedures they didn't need, all because of a harmless pop? Understanding this hidden condition doesn't just add a new page to the sports medicine playbook, it could actually rewrite the whole thing for how we protect the next generation of athletes.